Hi guys, it's Hani here, and today I'm going to share with you how I made these adorable and delicious hamburger cupcakes. Let's get started with today's tutorial. First, we're going to prepare fries, and to make the fries I am using my basic vanilla sugar cookie dough recipe. You can find this recipe on my blog hanielas.com, and you can see on each side I have a rolling guide. These are about 1/4 inch thick, and they ensure that my cookie dough is rolled out evenly throughout. I'm going to transfer this piece of dough onto the parchment, and then we can cut it into long strips. Now, to cut the dough you can use obviously a knife, but I find it's easier to use a pizza wheel, or you can use a pastry wheel as well. I'm going to trim the edges to make a rectangle, and depending on the size of the fries you want, I'm going to cut it in half because this would be too long of a fry, and then we're going to cut it into strips. If you are a little OCD and you want your fries to be the same thickness, I would recommend that you use a ruler, and then cut these into strips. We're going to separate these so they have their own place on the baking sheet. You don't want to bake it like this because it will just bake all together. So I'm going to separate each fry, and I'm going to bake these at 350 degrees of Fahrenheit, which is about 180 degrees of Celsius, for about 8 minutes at first. I'm going to check on them. You want these to be golden brown, so continue baking them if they are not golden brown for a couple more minutes. And once they are golden brown, you can remove them from the oven. Now, while they're still hot, and this is an optional step, you can mix them with some water and sprinkle them with some granulated sugar. This is going to imitate salt, but it's an optional step. You don't have to do that. You can prepare your fries ahead of time and store them in an airtight container, and then you can make your hamburgers on another day, so you don't have to do everything on the same day. To make the hamburgers, I am using vanilla cupcake. You can use your favorite vanilla cupcake that you have tested many times, or you can try my 1-bowl sponge cake recipe, which is super easy and delicious. Let the cupcakes cool, and then remove the liner and cut the cupcakes just under the muffin top, like so. Then make sure that you use a small round cutter that is about the same size as your cupcake or slightly smaller. Mine was about 2 inches. Now, to make the meat patties, I'm using brownies. So you want to make brownies, you can use a mix to make the brownies. Let them cool completely, and then cut out the meat patties with the cutter. I also added some cherry preserve in my brownies to add some extra yumminess. And now we are pretty much ready to assemble cupcakes. I just have to remove the liners, and this is a great project for the kids. They can help with various tasks like removing the liners, cutting out the patties, and maybe even with some piping. And for a full recipe you can visit my blog hanielas.com. Link is in the description box. It also includes all the tools you need. And again, I'm going to cut the cupcakes in half, and then we are going to assemble hamburger cupcakes. Now, I'm going to be using buttercream. I'm using American buttercream. This is basically just powdered sugar, butter, and some milk or water and flavoring. And we're going to make lettuce, ketchup, and mustard. To make the lettuce, I decided to use 2 shades of green. This is again optional. You can just use 1 shade of green, but I wanted to get some highlight in my lettuce, so that's why I'm using 2 shades. To make the second shade that I'm whisking now, I used leaf green, and I added a little bit of yellow to it to make it a bit brighter. Okay, so that's done, and what I'm gonna do now, I'm going to spread it onto the food wrap and then we're going to fit it into a piping bag. To make the lettuce to pipe the lettuce on the cupcake, I'm going to be using a specialty piping tip. It's a tip from Atika, and it's a tip 070. It's a specialty ruffle tip. If you don't have this tip, you can also use a pedal tip instead. Okay, so if you don't have this specialty tip, don't worry, you can just use a pedal tip. But with this tip, you'll see it creates a very realistic lettuce. So I'm going to show you. You can see here on the edge. Isn't that cool? So like I would recommend that you practice on an edge of a bowl before you go directly onto the cupcake. Maybe a few times, just in case you don't know how to handle the piping tip. Now to make the ketchup, I'm just using Super Red from Americolor brand to color my buttercream. American buttercream, it's super easy to color. If you are working with Swiss buttercream, and if you prefer Swiss buttercream, which I also love, and I have a recipe on my blog, there is a way how to color Swiss buttercream with gel food colors, and I am sharing all the tips on my blog. Now to make the mustard colored buttercream, I'm using yellow. And I'm going to mute it down just a little bit. You can leave it like that, obviously, if you want to have it bright yellow. But I'm going to mute it down just a little bit with some ivory food coloring. See, it's looking much better now. And with the red and mustard buttercream, we really don't need to use a piping tip, so I'm just going to put it into my tipless piping bag, and we're going to cut a small hole with scissors. So to make the cupcakes, we're going to need 3 colors. We are using green, red, and yellow to make the mustard. So I'm just gonna make a small opening at the end, and now we are ready. This is exciting. I love making these hamburger cupcakes. Now another thing we need is cheese. To make the cheese, you can use soft fruit candies like Starburst, and microwave it for about 3-5 seconds to make it a bit more pliable, and then roll it out to a square. And then you can use scissors and trim the edges. I'm also going to use a cutter to give me the outline, and then with scissors I'm gonna trim the edge so it's clean and straight, like so. And you can make these again ahead of time and just store them in an airtight container layered between pieces of parchment. But I think it's probably best to make them when you're assembling the cupcakes. And here comes the lettuce. Isn't that cool? So you want to go all around. Try to keep the piping tip slightly over the edge so the lettuce it's extending past the cupcake. Now I'm going to put on the meat patty. This is the brownie. Press it down gently. Now a little bit of ketchup, and now the cheese. I'm going to shape the corners, press them down a little bit. Alright, and now we can do the tomatoes, or ketchup if you will. So I'm using the tipless piping bag. You can see there is no tip attached, and I'm just piping moon shapes. And now the mustard zigzag across, and now the top bun. If you'd like, you can also add sesame seeds. To make the muffin top slightly sticky, you can use sugar syrup, apricot jam, or even a little bit of chocolate syrup. That's what I'm using. When you're using chocolate syrup, make sure that you don't overdo it. You don't want the muffin top to be too brown. Go gently, and you want it to be just very slightly sticky. You don't want it to be like overloaded with chocolate syrup. And then you can add the sesame seeds. What a difference, huh? And then you can run a skewer through the middle. And to serve these, you can obviously just have them on a platter, but I found these cute boxes, so I'm going to nest each cupcake in a box along with some fries, and you can put these on a table and your guests can just take individual boxes with them and enjoy their cupcakes. How adorable. I love how these turned out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you have suggestions for future videos, let me know about them in the comments. I love to hear what you guys want to see in the future. And again, a full recipe is on my blog, hanielas.com. A link is in the description box. And for those of you who are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you get notified about my new uploads. And I will see you next time.